Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. I am Dennis Shao, the organizer of this meetup group. For those of you who are not familiar with us, go to meetup.com and search for Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup or just Bay Area Content Marketing. Today, we have Lisa Murton Beets with us. Lisa is Research Director at Content Marketing Institute. I have known of Lisa's work for quite a while, but I had a chance to meet her for the first time in Cleveland back in September at Content Marketing World, which was fabulous, both the event and the opportunity to meet Lisa. Lisa's going to talk about the 12th annual report from CMI and MarketingProfs titled B2B Content Marketing, Benchmarks, Budgets, and Trends. And she's going to do a quick, she's going to do a brief introduction about the report, and then most of today's time will be answering your questions about the research. So Lisa, take it away, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here today. As Dennis mentioned, I'm Lisa Beets. I am the Research Director at Content Marketing Institute. I have been in the role for 11 years now. Prior to that, I spent 15 years as a B2B freelance writer and a freelance magazine editor, custom publishing. And prior to that, I spent 10 years as a B2B journalist covering the HVAC industry. I was with Penton Media, which is where I met Joe Paluzzi. So when Joe started up CMI, I started working for him. I started off editing books for Joe. I edited his first book. I've edited a few written by Robert Rose, Andrew Davis, and several other marketers. And then my role just sort of morphed into the research role, and that was a good fit for me. I enjoy it, and that is where I'm still at now with CMI. So without further ado, we'll dive into our report. This, as Dennis mentioned, this is our 12th annual B2B content marketing report. We put out this report every year with our friends at MarketingProfs. This year, we received a total of 1,275 responses from global responses. And the report we're looking at today is based on the B2B slice of the survey, and that was 810 B2B respondents, all of whom indicated that they were either a content marketer or involved with the content marketing function, and or someone to whom content marketing reports in their organization. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the theme, the big overall theme that emerged this year. And that was the sleeping giant awakes. And that sleeping giant is content marketing. And the theme emerged as we began to sift through over 600 of the qualitative responses to the survey. The survey is qualitative, but we do have one fill-in question. And the question this year was, what did the pandemic change most about your organization's content marketing strategy and approach? And I was really shocked with how many of the respondents actually took the time to fill in the question and how detailed the responses were. I think people really wanted to talk. They really wanted to talk about their experiences over the past year. So the theme that we felt emerged was just that content marketing is finally getting a seat at the table. You know, we have, there are no in-person events. There's no face-to-face selling, everything's shut down, everyone's online, and everyone starts looking over at marketing and content marketing. And finally, people start talking, and we heard a lot of people mention sales. So, you know, we've heard a lot in past years about this lack of alignment between content marketing and sales. Well, now sales is looking over, and maybe it's time that the two do get aligned. And that's a little bit of what we saw happening over the past year. And another theme that emerged was that of empathy. Marketers telling us, you know, we finally have to talk to our audiences like they're real human beings, you know. I mean, gosh, we're faced with a pandemic. We can't just go about business as usual. So we get this feeling that there's some empathy going on. And we saw that especially with healthcare marketers, financial and insurance marketers, and just all marketers really. So we feel that's a good thing, and we hope that that is a trend that continues. So getting a seat at the table, obviously content marketers were working very hard, weren't we all? But you can see by looking at this stat that 67% said that over the last year, their content team had been asked to do more with the same resources. So they were busy. 51% said that over the last year, it had become increasingly difficult to capture their audience's attention. So busy times. Some of the marketers told us they were even getting new audiences during this time. So everybody was really busy. So that might bring us to the question of how much outsourcing was going on. So we found that was split half and half between respondents, 50% yes, no, but you'll see that it's higher among large organizations. 75% of the respondents with large organizations said that they did outsource, and that was compared with 61% the previous year, which makes sense because the previous year, companies were tightening their belts. They were nervous. Nobody knew what was going on with lockdowns and so forth. But the figure is up again for large companies, and it's even higher than it was 2 years ago, where we saw it at 71%. So with outsourcing, what kind of challenges are there? Marketers told us that the biggest challenge they face when seeking outsourced help is finding partners with adequate topical expertise. That was their top challenge, as you can see, by a long shot, 65%. And that was followed by finding partners who understand and can empathize with our audience, followed by budget issues. You might be surprised that budget issues didn't come in as the top challenge, but it didn't. Last year, budget was the top challenge at 65%. So it kind of flipped. But that's telling us that hopefully some money may have, freed up for outsourcing. But really that top challenge is the finding partners with that topical expertise. So now I want to talk about the types of content that marketers told us they had been creating. The top type of content created is short articles and blog posts. That was by far at 90%. That was followed by videos at 66%, virtual events, webinars, and online courses at 64%, and case studies at 61%, and so on, which produced the best results. Okay, so marketers told us that the virtual events, webinars, and online courses produced the best results, followed by maybe surprisingly research reports that do perform well, short articles and posts, ebooks and white papers. Those were the top 4. And you'll see here that case studies and videos came a little bit further down the list, whereas on the previous slide, videos and case studies appear a bit higher on the list. So over the years, we kind of see case studies go back and forth. Videos, it will be interesting to see next year if videos move up this list, considering that videos are hot right now, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So now moving on to the owned media platforms that B2B marketers use to distribute their content. Well, yes, their website, 90% said that they post content on their organization's website. 76% indicated that they have a blog. 69% use email newsletters, and 68% use email. And then some of these other less often used platforms include microsites, which would be your landing pages, your resource centers. Those came in at 28%. Online communities, 22%, digital magazines, 12%, and so on. But some of these areas here may present opportunities for marketers whose competitors aren't using those platforms to get in front of audiences. Now we're going to talk a little bit about organic and paid platforms. that marketers use to distribute content. This first slide shows us organic platforms. 52% indicated that they use media and public relations to get the word out. 52% said they speak and present at events. 43% write guest posts and articles for third-party publications, and so forth down the list. You can see here that 22% indicated influencer partnerships. Regarding the organic social media platforms that marketers use to distribute content, LinkedIn came out on top. That's really not a big surprise. It comes in top every year when we ask. It's followed by Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and then a small amount indicating Pinterest, Medium, and others. LinkedIn is also the social media platform that they said gets them the best results. Turning our attention to paid methods to promote content, 81% of our respondents said that they do use paid methods. And of those, 45% indicated that their spending had increased on paid over the last 12 months. So where are they spending? Their top two areas are social media advertising at 77% and SEM pay-per-click at 65%. Regarding paid social, again, LinkedIn comes out on top at 75%, followed by Facebook at 69%. And again, LinkedIn rated the most effective, producing the best results by a long shot, actually 79% versus 54% for Facebook. So people may not be getting the same results on Facebook, but they still pay, they're still there. So I want to turn our attention for a moment to what we call content marketing success. Every year we ask marketers to rate their organization's overall level of content marketing success in the last 12 months. And this year we found that 29% of respondents said their organization was extremely or very successful. That's about what we find every year. It's a little bit higher this year. When we ask about factors contributing to that success, 74% said it's about the value their content provides. So with this slice of our audience, this 29%, these are what we call our most successful content marketers, or our top performers. And we do cross-tab the data and look at this group of top performers. In the report, you'll see this chart where we show some of this crosstab data. And there's another chart in the full-length version of the report, which I'll tell you how to access when I'm finished. But this chart here will show you that the most successful obtain more content marketing goals than their less successful peers. For example, 88% of the most successful said they use content marketing effectively to create brand awareness. 88% use it to build credibility, trust. 80% use it to educate audiences, and so forth down that list. Now, regarding budgets, we noticed increases in content marketing budgets. 43% said that their 2021 content marketing budget had increased over 2020 levels. And 66% expect their 2022 budget to be higher than their 2021 budget. Of that group, 20% expected to increase by more than 9%. So where will they spend the money? Well, 52% said that they plan to increase their investment in in-person events. No surprise there. 39% said they would increase in hybrid events, and 33% in digital virtual events. But here you'll see video is the top area. We asked, which areas do you see your organization investing in 2020? Video came out on top, 69%, followed by events as a whole at 61%. That was followed by owned media assets, their websites, their blog posts, if they have a digital magazine, so forth, at 57%. And 55% plan to invest in paid media. So what about their challenges? The top indicated content marketing challenge is creating content that appeals to multi-level roles within the target audience. Not surprising. That's followed by 42% who said accessing subject matter experts to create content. And that's kind of tied back to when we talked about the outsourcing challenges, that top challenge being finding people with adequate topical expertise. Very important to brand side marketers. Our report wraps up with the key takeaways, and I think we've covered almost all of them. This slide is missing here from the abbreviated version where we talk about small teams still being the norm. Our research consistently finds that most organizations have small or one-person marketing or content marketing teams that serve the entire organization. But of course, the larger the company, the larger the team. And later this year, early next year, we'll be putting out the enterprise slice of this report, where you'll be able to see just what large size content marketing organizations do. And you'll see that their teams are bigger. They're most often in the 2 to 5 person range, but they vary by company, obviously. Let's see here. Another key takeaway that I didn't discuss earlier was that we had asked a question about what are your top of mind content marketing issues for 2021 and 2022. The top 2 answers were changes to SEO search algorithms and data management analytics. And the digital management analytics came up higher this year than it had in the past, which makes sense, with us being in a digital sales environment and as data becomes more important to organizations in general. So as I mentioned, this is an abbreviated version of the report. You can find the full report at the Content Marketing Institute website. Our general manager, Stephanie Stahl, wrote a great blog post about this year's findings, and you can find that under the research tab at our website. Any questions, you're always more than welcome to email me or reach out to me on Twitter. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'm always happy just to talk to content marketers and anyone who has ideas about questions they would like to see on our next survey. Any kind of input that you would like to provide, please feel free to contact me at any time. And I just thought maybe we could talk a little bit about, do any of these findings resonate with you? Do you find them to be true in your own businesses and in your own circumstances? And what do you see yourself working on and investing in 2022?
Thanks, Lisa. That was a great overview. I skimmed the report this week, but having you take us through it, I think was super valuable.
Thank you.
Sure. So folks, feel free to use the chat to ask your question, or you can unmute yourself to do so. Does anyone have a question or a comment?
I see Craig has something in the chat. You want to start with that, Dennis? Then I have a question.
Sure. So Lisa, we have a question from Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any findings about tools used to track success? What about GA4/GTM, or maybe is that UTM? GA4 or GTM? And then he says, is there fear, uncertainty, and doubt? I'm assuming maybe about analytics or GA4?
Mm-hmm. No, we don't, but it's a great point, Craig. Thank you. Would you like to talk about it, Craig?
No, I just wondered if you had questions on that topic, because you seem to approach it mainly from the point of view of where are people putting budget, and then it's not really clear how they're determining what is useful and what's not.
Mhm. Yes, measure, and you mean in measurement in general as well, Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do ask a few high-level questions about measurement on the survey. I didn't go over any of those. There were 2 questions this year, but measurement is always it's a very challenging area. I agree. Gosh, we've been talking recently about maybe just doing one survey solely focused on ROI and measurement.
Yeah, at the risk of tooting Dennis's horn here a little bit, but I think it's tomorrow. You've got part 2 of the Kyle Ackerman thing on Google
Yeah.
Analytics 4 and Google Tag Manager. And just in reading about it, it seems like a lot of companies have basically reacted to that by saying it's too complicated. We can't do this. We don't have a whole team like Google does. We're just one person, as Lisa points out.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it does seem like, Lisa, for next year's research, it would be interesting to have a little bit of insights from the respondents about analytics. What are your challenges with analytics? How do you use it? Like, if you're defining the success, how are you using analytics to make that definition?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
So we have a
I'm
question
taking
from
notes.
Dana. Oh, okay.
Taking
think
notes, guys.
Rich had one first, so we'll let Rich go, and then I'll ask Dana's question.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, for presenting, and Dennis for hosting. So, Lisa, I might have misunderstood, but I thought in your preso you commented about Facebook and that content marketers are using Facebook and spending resource there, yet the performance isn't all that. But maybe I misunderstood, because I'm looking back through the PDF now, and I don't know, maybe I misunderstood you. But what are you seeing around Facebook? Is it still performing?
My feeling on it, well, let me see if we're talking paid or organic. Organic, yeah. I mean, 37% indicated that they were getting
Results.
high level results with Facebook. I don't know. I feel this every year that marketers, they're on Facebook. Maybe they need to be there, but the results, I don't think are what they would like them to be. It's a tough one. It's, as Joe says, it's rented land, but then again, with the paid, let's see what it's paid. Gosh, I wish we had our social media manager on to talk to this point. 69% using paid Facebook, 54% saying, 54% saying they're getting results. It's not a bad stat. It's,
Right.
Do you use it yourself?
No, I'm just not the cynic, but the skeptic in that, the day of their IPO is the day they launched Promoted Post, and I was paying to reach the audience I had built for Oracle on their rented land, right? So the 54%, what's the cliche? I don't know which half of the ad dollars I spend work.
Right.
So I was just curious if anyone else on the call is having success with the Zuckerberg channel or not.
So I recently, over the summer, it was for a university. Most of the work's B2B, but this is a company selling to university professors, and we ran. The CEO wanted to run ads on Facebook, and we talked him into testing LinkedIn also. So we ran ads on both platforms, and at the end of the day, people were going through the landing page, and they'd either sign up for a demo or not. The Facebook ads were like 10% of the cost, the Facebook clicks, 10% or less, by 8% of the cost of LinkedIn clicks. But the targeting on Facebook was not very precise, to say the least. Yet, if they had a general interest in the category that these people sold into, we'd see them. We wouldn't be able to filter out on university professors, which we could on LinkedIn. So at the end of the day, the cost per demo sign up was pretty similar between the two, because LinkedIn ads were 10x more targeted. And so we kind of stopped at that point, and they kind of rejiggering things. So we didn't kind of like do the next step and couldn't track actual deals that close between the two. But the link, my gut tells me of the conversions they got, the ones out of LinkedIn were better in general, but I don't have data to back that up. So that targeting's not as good. Most of the clicks won't be good, but all in all, the price might, justify going to both platforms.
Right.
I have a couple of thoughts actually to kind of build on what you said, Todd, because I found that too. I mean, it's very frustrating to try and do ad campaigns on Facebook for me. And I'm mostly dealing with small businesses that don't have, the ginormous budgets that, a lot of big companies have. But what I found is the Facebook advertising that works is usually for companies that are, how do I put it, acceptable to talk about in public. Like, just the fun stuff, basically, the restaurants, the bars, the concerts, the, things like that, even like, toys, commercial items. But like, I always use this one as an example, but I have a client that has a day spa. She does the Botox and fillers and, all that sort of stuff. Nobody would like her page on Facebook. The ads would sort of work, but we never got any momentum on our page because nobody wants to admit they're using that. And even her husband wouldn't like her page. It was really kind of funny. And so, but we found Yelp was great because, that's where people go to Yelp for the stuff they don't want to ask their friends. That's kind of how I define Yelp. And the same budget got like 10 times the response than what Facebook got. So that's always kind of my theory with Facebook. Plus, yeah, I know for a fact that their target audience is not accurate because I live in a tiny county. I ran an ad just for people living in my county, and it said I would reach like 4 times the amount of people that even live here. So I'm like, yeah, ever since then, I just don't trust Facebook's demographics. I mean, sometimes it still works, if you're really going to get a fraction of what they say you're going to get as far as a target audience, maybe that's okay. But I'm a skeptic too when it comes to them.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to move on to there's a bunch of questions in the chat. So I'm going to ask a few of these to Lisa. So Lisa, this is from Dana. And I did notice, I think one of the data points was spend for next year. And I think video was one of the top. So Dana asked, are there breakdown on the video trends? Are investments going into high production videos or is it low production like Snapchat and TikTok?
That's a great question. Thank you, Dana. That is a great question. No, we didn't ask about that. But we recently did put out some new research on video. You can also find that at the CMI website. It just came out maybe 2 weeks ago. It did not ask the question that you're asking, but there may be some other valuable information for you that you'd be interested in that report that's specifically focused on video. And
then Lisa, related to that, Robin asks whether the research shows an increase in the use and performance of YouTube videos.
In YouTube, I didn't compare YouTube with last year. YouTube usually holds steady year over year. Let's see what it was at this year. And I'm assuming we're talking organic, but we'll look at organic and paid. 60% said that they used organic YouTube. And 36% said paid YouTube, but that's 60% of organic YouTube. That's probably pretty close to what we see every year. There's never really any growth or decline with YouTube. We see more use of YouTube among our manufacturing content marketers, which makes sense because they're posting a lot of videos, maybe plant videos or equipment type videos. But yeah, we recently put out that manufacturing slice of the data, that report a few weeks ago also.
Got it. Thanks, Lisa.
Mhm.
There's a few more questions in the chat, but I'll like to give the audience a chance. If you want to unmute yourself and ask one live, you may do so. Okay, so the question from the chat, so this is from Michael. Michael, do you want to ask it live or do you want me to read the question? Okay, I will read the question. Okay, so Lisa, the question is, for content, I think about two dimensions. The first is discovery, how audience gets access to the content and how content engagement leads to more engagement. So the first is discovery. The second is around being authoritative, how SEO rankings and other references help guide interest. Are there successful innovations in these areas that you uncovered? So it's discovery and being authoritative.
No specific questions on either of those areas, but it's really interesting what you're asking, Michael. So I took some notes on that, and I'd really like to dig deeper into SEO on our next survey. I feel like it's an area that we haven't really inquired enough about. And if I can find the right questions to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I realized I was trying to talk and I had not unmuted myself. So naturally, of course, no one could see what I was saying. That happens. But yeah, I just, this idea that people are trying to innovate in these areas. And I think this is where people are creating some level of differentiation around their content strategies. So that's kind of curious what trends show up in there. That'd be something interesting for me going forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, you did mention SEO. So the way my notes say that the question said, what content marketing related area will be most important to B2B organizations in 21-22? And the top answer at 62% was changes to SEO and search algorithms.
Yeah.
I found that pretty surprising because it almost made me think of the SEO 1.0 days when like all you cared about was the Google algorithm. So I was surprised there wasn't another challenge that leapfrogged the SEO, because it feels like we've been optimizing SEO for 15 years.
I know, and it still makes people very, very nervous,
Yeah. So pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think it was like there might be a Robert Rose post that says that argues for the point about in some level disregarding SEO and achieving this other result instead.
There is. You're right.
Yes.
I read that recently.
Yeah.
It was a good post.
Yeah. All right. Other question. Okay, another question just came in from Veronica. Does your research show any indicators of successful strategies for unpaid reach? I guess like organic reach.
Strategies for doing so?
Yes.
For organic reach.
For being successful with organic, I guess. I guess it gets back to SEO in a sense that we're talking about.
Yeah, it does. Organic. I went back to our organic chart. SEO. Not in particular. All this was a a usage question. I don't know. My personal feeling is I'm not sure that enough marketers take advantage of influencer partnerships. I guess that's why I called that one out. Things like guest posts and articles, or even doing things like we're doing today, just meeting each other. I don't know, many opportunities I feel with organic reach.
So Lisa, a question on just research in general. I think you've been doing this report the entire history of the 12 years, perhaps. There might be folks on this call that are looking to do their own original research to support their own content marketing. Do you have some tips on how to get started, the right approach to take, things of that nature?
Well, I would say just think through your goals and objectives first. Obviously, what is your why? Are there any burning questions that your audience might have that are unanswered? Questions that you can get to the bottom of by providing answers and insights. Maybe it's okay to start small. I mean, there's a lot to it. You have to approach it from a project management point of view. Like I said, define your goals and objectives. You have to think through every step. You know, who will design the questionnaire? The questionnaire itself is so important. Just ensuring that you get the questions right. Then your survey needs to be programmed. Whatever type of program you might use. It might be something like SurveyMonkey. It might be something more sophisticated like Qualtrics. Will you do that yourself or will you outsource it? Those are important considerations. And then you have to think about your sample. Where will you get your list? Who will you reach out to? Will you partner with anyone? Hey, would you like to distribute our survey for us? So you may have distribution partners. Always taking good notes all throughout each project step, especially when it comes to your partners. You know, who's your partner? Who are they mailing out to? Are they distributing via email only, or are they distributing over social? Just make sure you know where your responses are coming from. And with survey programming, you can build that in. So you can build links so you can see where responses are coming from, be it social or email. But it's good to take notes all along the way. And I guess you have to think about your list size. Will your list size give you enough responses? What other considerations, and just what are you going to do with all this data? You know, after the data comes in, you have to edit and clean it, analyze it, write your report. So there's a lot of moving parts. So a lot to think through. Who will do what, and what will your final result be? You know, is it just one report? Are you going to slice it and dice it? Will you distribute your content distribution? Where will you distribute? Over social media? Is that helpful? I hope I covered all the bases.
Well, one quick follow-on for this annual B2B report. Tell us, like, around what month you kick off the project, and then how many months later does the report get published?
Well, we start talking about it, I guess, in March or April. This year, I'm envisioning a lot of changes to our survey regarding the types of questions we ask. So that takes a few months just of brainstorming amongst the team and so forth. So to deploy and start fielding in July, I start to actually program the survey in May, and then I can kind of tweak it right up to the very end. But yeah, it's a months long process just to get it out in the field.
And then so
we field for a month. Mm-hmm.
Field for a month, and then the report gets published around what month?
In October. We shoot for, the reason we shoot for that timing is because we want to put some data out there in the hopes that people are doing their budgeting for the next year. So
excellent. All right, I think we covered all the questions in the chat. Anyone else have a question they want to ask live or via audio?
I was on the, when your slides showed, had two charts on it with social media, and I noticed Pinterest was on the left on where you engage. Yeah, this is the one. Pinterest showed up. It's pretty low, but it wasn't on, didn't make the right at all. I have one client that does their Pinterest traffic, even though they don't post that often, they've got kind of a library on there, is pretty engaged traffic when they come to the website. You just haven't, people just haven't said that it's been that it hasn't been successful for them, huh?
Yeah, it's higher amongst B2C marketers.
Yeah, it's a B2B company, but they're in creative production. You know, they do retail graphics, direct mail, you know, all that type of thing. So there's a really artistic design community is, you know, part of their draw, so that people do look to Pinterest for those kind of ideas.
Oh,
but
yes.
Just B2B in general, I guess
Yeah.
it doesn't perform. Okay.
I kind of look at this result and look at what's missing. Like Pinterest is missing on the right. That could be an opportunity for B2B. organizations to have some go where no one else is.
Yes.
That's a good point.
But I'm shocked that you have a client that does direct mail.
I to have a
That was
client
a
that does
joke.
direct mail. Yeah. You could probably guess who it is.
I could guess who it is. Oh yes, I can.
Dennis,
All right, anyone
Dennis,
else?
I've been
Shy. Yes.
on that point. I've been hearing noise about TikTok.
Okay,
And of
for
course-
B2B.
Yeah, and of course, people were pushing me on Clubhouse as well, but I was like,
Right.
I'm not gonna spend my energy because I've done. I did it for Pinterest for a while, and actually that was fairly successful for my B2B, but I wasn't gonna dive into the other two.
Yeah.
Is
And you-
anybody engaging on Clubhouse? I heard so much about it, and I've heard nothing.
I
How to
think
get
it's
rich
fading
quick
away.
schemes. I hear how to get rich quick schemes, and that's kind of about it.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, God, I got an Android, and then it's like, and I never borrowed my wife's phone or anything. It's like, I forget it. And then the app was out on Android for like 6 weeks before I even knew it. And then I downloaded it and I created an account, clicked around a little bit, and I've only opened it once since. I've never spent any time in it. So yeah, it's probably fading away, gracefully or not.
Yeah, I think the peak hype period was around the spring of this year. I know Joe Polizzi did part of his Content Inc. book tour on Clubhouse, and but I never opted to get an invitation, so I've never been on, and I feel like it's died out a bit. The commentary I hear is that Twitter Spaces kind of was a downfall once Twitter quickly released Spaces, which is like Clubhouse at the top of your Twitter feed on mobile. It took audience away from Clubhouse. So I think Clubhouse is struggling right now.
Makes sense.
It died as soon as they let those Android users in.
You can blame it on me.
Yeah.
Personally in the downfall for Clubhouse. I'll take it.
Oh.
Love
Any
it.
PR is good PR.
This is the first Android iPhone wars we've had on the meetup.
Hi, I'm Dana.
Hey, Dana.
Hey, Dana. Yeah,
Good to
like
see you.
really nice to meet you.
We did a campaign in Clubhouse, some thought leadership sessions just to position ourselves as, hey, we're using Clubhouse, and then bailed on it because the users weren't there.
Interesting. Okay, how about we have time for one more question? Does anyone want to ask a question?
I just want to dive into the PDF to the report.
You're more than welcome to do that. All right, and well, if not, we will wrap things up. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us today. Really interesting research, and thanks for continuing to put out this annual research and all the other flavors of research that CMI does. So bravo to you and the team. Actually, our next meetup is tomorrow. So for those of you who can make it, we are have a presenter about GA4 and many more in December and January. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks again, Lisa, and see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dennis.
Bye.
Bye.